Hello, everyone. Okay, I think. Hello, everyone. My name is Adela Kolawale. Thank you so much for joining this event. It's going to be enlightening, insightful. I won't take much of our time, so we're just going to go get into it. It's already 11 a.m. Without wasting too much of our time. The topic is event and the law. We want to deal with event practitioners, professionals, those in the category of event planners, decorators, caterers, DJs, even events, those that own the event venues, hotels that conduct events. So that's all that we're trying to do. Please, if you can confirm, if you can see my slide. I know some of us are joining from YouTube, we're joining from Facebook, and also some of us are joining from LinkedIn. So you can let us know if you're seeing my slide. We're just gonna get straight into it. Interestingly, when we did the form for this particular webinar, quite a number of those that registered had a lot of questions about tax, and we're going to be dealing with that as well. But let's just touch into the basis. Please, the next slide. So why legal compliance? Why does it matter? Legal compliance saves you a lot of sorry. So legal compliance, why it matters? As event professionals, you are in the industry of bringing joy, making events, beautiful, putting smiles to faces. But as beautiful as that is, little mistakes here and there can ruin an entire event. And so, why compliance matter to you as an event professional is that you are you're saving yourself stress, you're saving yourself waste of money, you're also saving yourself your reputation, because anything that goes wrong, it's on you. And so one has to ensure that you're following the due process. You're ensuring that every single thing that pertains to the event, from your documentation to your entity being registered, to your compliance, to all of the rules that has to do with, either depending on the state that you're located. So compliance is not optional. It's not optional at all. It's not optional at all. So, and looking at 2026 tax reforms that is about to kickstart in January. We see, a lot of us trying to understand, oh, what is it for me, for my business? But the reality is that 2026 is really going to be different for all business owners, and of course, event practitioners or professionals are not left out. And so it's important. We see DJs or hotel venues being shut down because they are not compliant. We've seen caterers or we've seen event planners getting into trouble just because you've not envisaged certain things ahead. So compliance is extremely, extremely, extremely matter. It saves you a whole lot, that I can never imagine. Next slide, please. So the five buckets, we call this the five risk bucket, and that's what it entails in summary for an event professional. This is all encompassing of what you face one way or the other. It depends on, depending on your own specifics. Of course, I forgot to mention ushers as well. Those that are also dealing in rentals. We have the event rentals, we have ushers, hostesses, and all of that. So we have the five risk buckets: the entity and CAC compliance. There's the contract and payment risk, the safety and government permits. We have data and intellectual property, and we have tax and record keeping. We have tax and record keeping. So next slide. So we're going to be dealing with one by one, explaining the importance of it. At the end of the day, the whole idea is for you as an event professional to come out strong and protected. Protected, that's the most important thing. So entity risk, business name as a limited liability company. I won't dwell so much on this, but just to explain to us, business name is a type of registration that allows you to trade under the name and style of that name. It's not different from you. It's not protecting you in when it comes to legally. Like it's not like the business name has its own legal personality. It's just, but you're able to open a corporate account, you're able to trade with the name, as it were, but it still has some compliance that it has to also fulfill, just like limited liability, for manual return, CAC, from taxes, and all of that. And limited liability has, it's a type of registration that it has only good personality, it can be sued and sued in his own name. It protects you, it differentiates. This is not a legal advice, but I must state this that for event professionals, really, I would pick a limited liability over a business name if I'm into the event practitioner. Or if I were an event professional, I would pick a limited liability because your business, your type of service it involves a lot of risk, from certain things happening that you can't even envisage, for something, anything is going wrong. It is you as a person. This is not because you're trying to avoid liability as a person, but it's just that you take off the certain liability on yourself personally, the company and use the liability because it's the business that is offering the service and not you as a person. But that's just inside. It's not illegal advice. This next slide. Now, contract and payment risk. Contract and payment risk. So this this is this is extremely important. We've seen a whole lot of situations where things have gone so wrong, things have gone so bad just because there were no competition documentation. When it comes to events professionals, you cannot assume. You can't just say, no, my clients understand. No, they know, they understand. You can't assume any single thing, every single so I've worked in an event industry before, years ago, and so I know that there's always a briefing. There's always a time where you talk to the. There's always a time where you talk to. Sorry, excuse me. There's always a time where you speak. You have a briefing. The client comes to you. Now this is the angle. Even if it's an event planner or a photographer, there will always be a time where you sit down with the client and the client tells you that this is what I want. This is how I want the event to be. Event planners even have broader or have another level of responsibility because you're dealing with various vendors. You're dealing with the decorators, the caterers, the DJs. And so I'm first starting out from even the point of when the first meeting is heard with you and the client, where the client is telling you, this is the kind of theme that I want for the event. This is kind of, all of those things. No matter how you feel like clients understand, it is important that it is documented. Every single thing, and you return it back to the client and say, this is just the list of things that, the time of the consultation. Is this fine? Is this what you're talking about? Is this what you want? Every single thing is documented. No assumptions. No, there's no problem. Just at every single time that there is an adjustment, you are sending it back to the client and you are in. And now when we now move to the event planners and the vendors, event planners has to deal with the decorators, have to deal with the venue owners, have to deal with a lot of things. So every single thing is important. And so so I've already said the essence of the written contract. You cannot assume, you cannot rely on oral. Anybody will hot emails, you can say, I didn't say that. And the reality is at times the person is not really trying to lie, or it's just the level of that point. They can't remember that they said such. but your own evidences, your what you have, that you can hold on and say, oh no, it's stated here, and then it settles the matter. So it's the essence of reducing contract cannot be overemphasized when it comes to your industry. Then what should be a content of an ideal? Just gonna I wrote something here that I'm just gonna read out so we know what's the content of an ideal contract. You know, your contract should be able to state obligations, state expectations. You should state the rules. You should state refund. You state cancellation policy. This is you should state force majeure. You should state the just in case. There are different categories. One of the things that I would suggest to events, whether event planners or DJs or photographers, always have certainly must have a fund policy. You can't say I don't have a fund policy. So a fund policy states the category of the time of when you will be refunding. So for example, the client has paid you at the beginning, maybe 70% of the money or 50%, depending on your policy of how you handle the payment. And then they're supposed to make another percentage and all of that. I know there are different stages where you've already sourced. So I'm going to use event planners as an example. You've already started sourcing for vendors. You've already started paying caterers, started paying this, started paying those that will bake, started paying all of that. So you must have setting, you must have what's it called? You must have reform policy at every stage. That when you decide to cancel at this point, you get your show back. When you decide to cancel at this point, and so a person, someone that canceled almost towards the end of the event, you also have something for them. Are they getting anything or that's all? But it can be an outright that no refund policy, or it has to be defined. And that's only if it's not defined, it's not protected. And you also must have first majority because these are things that you did not envisage. And so you must protect yourself ahead of time that, okay, this, you must protect yourself ahead of time that, okay, how do I protect myself when it comes to cancellation, when it comes to refund? I'm emphasizing this refund because there's a lot that has happened. This is something that has caused, if not more harm, more ruin to events than every other thing. Because why are you not refunding me? Why are you not doing this? But when you're clear as to how it works, it's already clear. And then when you're also clear as to the obligation of the what you expected of you, no interference in the event of the day. When you're already clear on certain things, it just makes every so the certain contracts you must have, all the contract you must have must state it in as much as some of us we not necessarily want to engage to get a detailed when it comes to contract. But even if you're, I don't want to say if you're using templates, there's a disadvantage in using templates because no two events are the same, right? And so when you take a template to produce it for another event, there's going to be a problem. So no two events are usually always the same. You must know that an event that you did, a wedding that you did for Mrs. Hay and Mr. Hay, even another wedding, maybe the same thing, maybe same, everything looks similar, but there's something that be different. So you must look at during that consultation, how are they or how were they? From everything, you must be able to deduce, and so that forms the basis of what you will write in the contract. It's very, very, very important that you know that to form the basis of what you write in the contract. And so, as I said, it must contain event day delays over time, damage responsibility, policy, photographer, force majeure clause, as I already stated, deposit to be made at the start of the work. You know, I don't want to emphasize too much on the front pieces so that but it's very important. Then payment structure clarity. You must also be clear on that one as well. So if we have any questions, please, I want us to drop it at the for those who have registered. I want us to drop it. You can drop it on YouTube. There's someone that would attend to it, and you can also drop it on the WhatsApp message for those who are registered. We got a message yesterday on the YouTube link, and so we can drop our questions there, right? Then we have the safety. Next slide, please. Safety, the venue capacity and structural safety physical safety, safety commission rules, noise permit. These are things that we know. I don't know, some of us have heard about the events that happened in Ibadan, where there was, the, what the event they were having was a good cause, right? Excuse me, please. The event they're having was a good cause, but there was total poor planning when it comes to emergency, when it comes to crowd control. And so there are expectations from you as event practitioners to ensure that you don't exceed when the venue capacity and structural safety already says, when the venue capacity already says that this accommodates only 1,000, then you should advise your clients. You should also ensure that you are not sitting 2,000 people, because I'm sure there's a reason why the capacity is that 1,000. So there's also must be safety, physical safety, emergencies, fire, even having nurses, having, because people, health situations can happen suddenly. Noise permits. This is also extremely important. And there are also even noise boundaries. There are certain decibels that you can't play if you're indoor. There's certain decibels that you should play and you cannot play indoors. And there's certain decibels you should and not play when you are outdoor. And those are things that some people that are into for example, the DJs, or even you as an event planner, when hiring a DJ, you ensure that they don't go above the required decibel. But all of this, Lagos State has, I'm sure every other state too would have. So you have to know the one that applies to your location. Then approval, for banners and outdoor branding, you have to find out if you need to pay for. I'm using Lagos as what they call it, a template or a foundation. Approval for banners and outdoor branding. You must ensure that you've gotten the LASA permit if necessary, so that there's no any issue. We've seen venues being shut down, and that's reality. That is, we've seen venues being shut down for overcrowding. We've seen venues being shut down for not following safety rules. We've seen um, we've seen DJs being arrested for noise pollution. So these are things that are real. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next, I'm trying to move the next slide. Sorry. Okay. So data and IP risk. So yeah, how do you handle the data that you collect um, from your client, the guest list? Um, you must know that you can't afford. So, for example, if you're going to, if a situation where your client are probably want they want you to send mails to, I'm trying to give a basic example. Now you want to send mails to the guest. Maybe what they're doing is an e-invite, and they want to send mails to your guests. You cannot do CC. So there's a difference between BCC and CC. So you can't. One of the things that you must avoid as event professionals is you must protect the data of the guest, of your client. So in the situation now of the email, you have to BCC so that it's not seen by the other party. It's not, email is something that it's a data that you don't want to share just to anyone, right? So when you're trying to send, for example, send the e-invite to all of the 2,000 or 1,000 guests, you have to BCC all of them so that the email comes from you to only one person per time. That means it's not going to be like I'm seeing 1,000 email address that is not mine, that is not, is for others. So we must take that matters requiring client consent. We must ensure that we get consent for every single step we take. Don't assume. I'm really, really employing us. There's no assumption in this thing. Don't assume, no, I didn't know, or I didn't know. Just Get every consent. Let the client be like, what now? Why are you stressing me? Get every consent when it comes to every single thing. Then, of course, when photographers take pictures, they own the copyright because they are the one. They've done a whole lot. But if you want to use the pictures of your client on the public space, not everyone really wants to be in public space, and so you must have certain forms. You must have asked them those questions. That, do you mind? We don't assume that they want to be in the public space. Don't say because hey, it's my pictures now. At the end of the day, it's still their faces, right? So you must be clear on that part. That okay, how do we handle the part that you want to be in public space? There's a way that you may show your work and not necessarily show the face. Some people do not want their faces to show. So you must be clear about that. Then when it comes to use of music in the venue, when it comes to use of music in the venue, there's what the music must be licensed. You can't assume that no, Nigerians are fine with it now. You must obtain the appropriate license for playing the songs. Now it's not like you're going to it's not like you're going to obtain license for playing one, two, three, four, five, six, each license for each artist. No, there is a a license that covers you to be able to play all kind of music. It's all together, just one. So it's not like you're going to be obtaining one license. Okay, I want to play personal song now. License, this one, license, this one, license. No. So certainly someone that also wants to use um, someone's music for audiovisual, you must also obtain license for from the appropriate quarters. Next slide, please. So taxes, right? So as I said at the beginning, one of the major thing that we excuse me, one of the major thing that we got um, one of the major thing that we got from the questions that were filled with taxes, and I know a lot of us are concerned, having questions as to okay, what really, but tax records, Nigerian tax 2025 begins. So we all most likely have heard about the tax laws, and the head of committee, the presidential tax committee, he's been issuing some refunds. So some of those provisions are not stated in the tax laws, but he has the right to do that. And as soon as it's approved, some of these things have been approved. There are some things that are not provided for in the tax laws about capital gains tax, but they've eased certain things. There are some things that are not provided when it comes to exemptions. They are not all of them. Some are provided for, but they created some just to ease the application of the tax law. So you we're going to share all of them so you can see the exemptions after the webinar. You see the exemptions, you see where you where you fall under. But basically, you have obligation, whether you're a business name or limited liability, to file your taxes. So even if you are under the category of those that are exempted, filing is mandatory for every business, every individual, everyone, whether you're paying taxes or not. So there has to be a difference. You must know the difference between your paying taxes and your filing. And filing also in itself has penalties. And so, as I said at the beginning, why compliance matter, it saves you money. At the end of the day, when you are already exempted from paying taxes and then you find yourself having to pay penalties for not filing. So filing is just for you to come as you are, like, okay, here I am. Here I am. I want to file. So you can do zero. You can just come as you are. Some of us are not running the businesses here, but we have it. And some of us are already running it, but we've not reached certain turnover, right? So as we know, business names are categorized as limited, as categorized as themselves, right? So it's not under common income tax, it's under a personal income tax. So you pay tax as yourself as an individual. And so all the exemptions, you have an exemption if your annual earnings is not all 800,000 and above. So if you're earning 800,000 and below, you're exempted. With an 400 and above, then you're paying taxes. Person comes and they have a way of also calculating it. It's called a progressive rate. We're just who's going to share it with you. You see the percentage of how you've been taxed. Then you are, if you limited liability and you're earning 100 million and above, you start paying tax. But then below, you will not pay company income tax. And there's VAT for both business name and limited liability, but it's still there still has its own exemptions. One of the reforms that was done by Mr. Taiwo was the fact that he also created the VAT exemptions, the, the threshold as well. Then also withholding tax is paid by business name. That doesn't have any exemption. But for limited liability, it also created that exemption. It's not really actually part of what is stated in the law. You also have exemptions as well. Business slide, need to move fast. So I'm just going to move this fast, row by row. So we have the event planners, decorators, caterers, photographers, DJ, MCs, and musicians. Can I move to the next slide? Venues and all operators. So event planners essentials, as we have earlier said, as I said, partly discussed above, written contract for every single job that you do. I've worked with an event planner before years ago, and I know how contract is extremely important. It saved the event planner at that time a lot of stress because she already clearly defined certain things. If not, because we know that sometimes we can have difficult clients and we can have very beautiful clients, so we're all not the same. But that's where the documentation comes in place, where you just clearly define it. There's refund policy, there's timeline clarity, there's certain things that okay, this is this. There's safety coordination with venue because most of the time event planners are also they also double as event coordinators. So you must have all of those things in place. You must have the data protection, the guest list, what happens to this guest list. Because sometimes what happens to the names written, because we see some events where people write their names and numbers, what happens to it? We've seen this situation where you register for an event or something, and then they start sending you, mind you what I'm trying to say. This message you're getting from somewhere is not from the event though. It's from entirely different people. And so you're wondering, how did your data get there? So we have to take data protection seriously. We ensure that what the reason why you got the reason why you got the information, you use it strictly for the purpose. You don't start going, sharing it to other third party and all of that. Then transparency with vendors and clients. You have to give updates and all of that. And decorators, we've already written contract for every job. Decorators and rentals, those ones also have, because you're dealing with delicate things, right? Things that can break, things that can get destroyed, they're they're not going to be in the same shape sometimes, and so you must cover that so well that you're not missing out on anything. Must cover that so well. Then, so we already said all of that, but that particular thing is distinct for decorators and rentals because so the question now is, from this slide, I say we're specific for damage or loss. You must clearly state it. What happens when there's a damage? Is a bit of damage? What happens when there is loss? Because these things are are, are possible. No, then we also must clearly define with the all venue access to and set up timing. You must have the documentation that when I opening this, let them have given you the documentation that all of those things are clear logistics plan. So written agreement for all renters. Rentals is an interesting thing. I love it, but it's also very high risk because you must have yourself protected. You that you are renting out and you that you're also going to be renting, you must have yourself protected. Next slide, please. Yeah, caterers and food vendors, food safety and hygiene standards. You must understand your client, allergies disclosure disclaimer. You must ask those questions. As I said earlier, there's no assumptions. These are things that it looks funny, but it should be in the document. Like state every single thing in the document that this is the food safety, this is how, this is the measures that you take. Alleged disclosure, let the client tell you. Of course, we can't know all the clients that come around, but there must be certain things that um, maybe within the nuclear family or within the extended family they can disclose to you. Then delivery timing, you must also give your client the assurance. All of these things are things that we documented. Safety, hygiene, compliance, refund policies for partial delivery. This is extremely important. So you must, so that, as I said, that template, as much as it makes your work faster, that, oh, I'm giving my client documents, they've signed now. It has to tailor to each event. You can't just say, okay, I'm using the same thing, because it entails all of these things: food safety, hygiene standards, and the delivery timing. When the client tells you that, why are you not coming at the same time? You're like, okay, it's already clearly defined that I'm going to be here by this. So there's no, everything is all clear, right? Next slide, please. The photographers and videographers, yeah, copyright belongs to the photographer. Client only receive a license unless stated otherwise. But consent, as I said earlier, consent needed for posting. Yes, it's your work, because you're the one that I cannot create beautiful pictures, so I cannot come up claim it even if I'm your client. Yes, you give me the pictures, but it's your work. However, you must clearly define who you want to show. I've seen someone that was selling shoes or that went to post something, but the person didn't show the client's face. And so I'm sure at that point there must have been a stated agreement that I don't want my face to show. So you must be clear. The faces and get data. Please comply. Don't say they are disrupting my work. Find a way around it. Please comply. So you don't want to get sued and start paying money, that all the money you got for the event. You don't want that kind of situation to happen. You know, Portfolio use must be agreed in writing as well. So writing, it's a lot, no assumptions. As much as I must also state, I don't forget, as much as I'm also emphasizing writing, especially for some of us that we are creating document by ourselves, also ensure that it's not vague or it's not too restrictive. Let's say it's not too is not you're not giving yourself an agreement that is not enforceable, because you might tell yourself that, okay, I've given an agreement and they've signed, but by the time it's been weighed in the courts, it's not going to be enforceable because of certain terms or certain provisions that is in there. So you have to be careful. All right, next slide, please. Then DJs, MCs, and you mentioned some of those things. You must obtain music licensing. I don't need to go back to this. La SEPA noise rules. This is applicable to Lagos, but there are other states that also have their own rules. Power and electricity clarity with venue. You must. I said I've been in the event industry before, and I've seen situations where just not clearly defining how this is going to work out. You can see venue owners not opening what's it called, not opening the venue at the time that they should open it, and so automatically that stems and that affects downwards from the decorators that's supposed to come and do their work overnight. They're already affected, and so you see them rushing in the morning, affecting the DJs, affecting the people that want to. So it just stems down, and so if you've not cleared your contract with event venue operators, they can be funny. They can be very funny. That, okay, this is the time that you're opening. Can we see your document? And they sign. And then what happens if they don't follow through with that thing? It affects. I've seen that affects. Sometimes it affected some of the events that at that time I was an event coordinator. We just have to rush. The decorator is already delayed. Someone is already delayed. It just keeps passing on, passing on, passing on, passing on like that. So it's extremely important that you're clear on the documentation when it comes to DJs. Please be careful on the sounds. I know people are trying to have fun, but there are sound decibels, there are limits to how you should, how you should operate. The venue and hall operators, I've already said, they also must have safety measures, emergency exits, and fire readiness. You must emphasize the issues that might happen. Lagos State Commission certification must ensure event planners that the venue that you're about to use for your client have covered all of this, you know, maximum capacity limits, that you don't exceed it. Next slide, please. So 2026 tax reforms. So one of the things that this is going to be doing, the tax laws, is going to replace all of the value-added tax, the personal income tax, the CITA, the capital gains. We're going to have a unified tax law. That's one thing, and everyone is also going to have a unified tax ID, right? So they're trying to keep all of this in record. Doesn't mean that certain taxes that is meant to go to the government, to federal government, will not still go to federal government. And doesn't mean that those that is meant to go to the state level will not still go. But there's not going to be one unified. You're not going to be creating taxpayer ID up and down. Like, so if you relocate to a particular location, from one location to another location, you won't start creating another payer ID. That's unified payer ID leads you. It's your ID, irrespective of your location, right? So that's the whole idea. New rates, harmonized processes, the taxpayer's obligation to all business, record essential for compliance, then penalties. As we have said, there are penalties. I'm going to end with the taxes because that's one of the major questions that we asked, for this webinar. But let me just finish with the slide. Next, please. Next slide, please. So we already said this. You can move to the next slide. We said this already. We must put in place permits and all of that. Case study, can you stay there? We've seen photographers. Yeah. We've seen photographers sued for posting images without consent. We've seen La Sepa shut down a wedding due to noise evaluation, and we've seen planner blamed for failure due to non-written contract. If you can, all of you can send an event planner that is so efficient, that is so organized, coordinated, but no matter that, there are certain things that you cannot, you didn't plan, and as and happens and all of that. So you must give that ahead. You must plan ahead. Next slide, please. So going ahead into the new year, where so one of the things that you must know as an entity is that, firstly, ensure that you're even registered, right? This is the basic. Register even as the business name that you can afford right now. Ensure you have your name, because one of the provisions of CAMA, companies Allied Matters Heart, that's the act that governs how companies are regulated and all of that. Excuse me, ensure that you're registered, because you're expected to be registered within 28 days of commencement of business. So ensure that you register. And then there's always been a misconception that, oh, I've registered, but I'm not yet using my business. I've not commenced business yet. Why am I being asked to stay compliant with all of those filings? So whether you are whether you are so excuse me, trying to some people asking a question. So whether you are in operations or not, you're expected to file your CAC and return. That's what they call it. It is a fixed amount. So it's not like taxes that depends on what you earn and all of that. But CAC has a fixed amount for a business name, for limited liability, even for NGOs, they pay tax return. So prepare for that. That checklist is very, very important. For some of us, we've run our businesses for years now, and because we don't, it's just been there. we should also ensure that we file our annual returns. The valid tax ID. For some of us that already have, I'm sure that the government won't ask us to scrap ours. They're just going to unify it. Then annual returns return file. Plan ahead and plan yourself. Filings for individuals are usually done March 31st of. So, for example, we're entering into 2026 now, by God's grace. As an individual, as a business name, because as I said, business name are tagged as individuals, you'll be expected to file your tax returns on or before March 31. So that's next year. You're going to be filing your tax returns for the year 2025 on or before on or before March 31. If you are an employer, January 31, right? If you're an employer, January 31. If you are an individual, an employee, a business name, because I said business name, you are seen as an individual, you're expected to file your annual tax returns. So all of those on how to file it all depends on your state, um, but they are similar. I'm going to use in Lagos State, they are similar. Lagos State has a portal where you can file all those things. But I'm sure in the coming days, if they're going to be changing anything, having any changes to it, which I don't expect, we'll definitely know. I will let you know. But LRS, for example, e-tax, they have the portal where you can create in and filing your annual tax returns. So then another thing that you must have in mind is written contracts for every job. Don't enter into any event or any job with any client without having that in mind. Next slide, please. Sorry, since we're not sure, can you see my slide? Okay. Checklist. So the next thing is for you to know. So I'm going to use that one to also answer the question that somebody asked. NPA. It's not. It's an act. It's an act. So excuse me, Nigerian Data Protection Act, right? It's so as the name implies, it contains provision when it comes to data protected, things that you should consent to. That's the one of the provisions that it also has is when it comes to your children. You can consent to the fact that you don't want your children's pictures to be um, posted. So it's creating penalties, it's creating provisions, creating how you want to handle your data. And they expect those that are, because for example, we lawyers or those that let me use lawyers, those that handle data a lot, and part of those that handle data a lot is the event professionals. You handle data a lot. How do you handle it? So the law is giving you guidelines on what to do, how to do it, so that you don't get into trouble. So it's an act, basically, what to do, how to do it, so you don't get into trouble. So it's so they have guidelines, they have provisions. How can you get it? We can send a copy to you. We can even do like we're going to do can do like a summary in a simple term, layman language, so that you can understand that this is how I should handle data. This is what this covers. This is what applies to me. So we're going to do that. Somebody asked that question, so I needed to answer that. So you must be careful of. So how it applies to you is posting of pictures, guest list, how you handle it. So you must be careful. So that's basically. I don't know if I'll be able to answer that question. So another thing that you must have in mind when it comes to compliance checklist B is so for the person that asked the question, I will just instruct our admin to send it to the email address of all those that are registered so that you can have access to the law and you can go through it. But we will also try to summarize as much as we can. Trying to check for if there's any other question. So, as I said earlier too, that sometimes we don't know how our data gets into to someone else's hand, but you just know that you received a message and someone sent you a message. I need to be fast. Then, so you must also plan, have a checklist of having safety compliance for all events, vendor agreements signed, and licensed music only. Next slide, please. Because I want to come back to touch on taxes, which was one of the major questions that we asked. This already, this next slide, it was repeated. Okay, so I think that's basically the question. So let me quickly come back to the taxes just to give a summary of what is expected of you before we take any other questions if we have any. Okay, so taxes. So we know that there are new tax laws, about four, but about four coming out. So I'm just going to speak to how what applies to you as a business name, what exemptions that you have, and what you have as a limited liability as well. So for you as a business name, as we earlier said, you are your business and your business is you, and so you are paying a personal income tax. How is this being? How is this being? So first of all, also, personal income tax is also in the category of those that are business that are also employees, where you're already getting your taxes deducted at work. They're already deducting your taxes at work, right? So you're already getting your taxes deducted at work. So you're also in the category of personal income tax. Now that's one. So if you are if your all your annual income is 800,000 and below, you are exempted from paying personal income tax. If you are earning minimum wage is if you're earning minimum wage, if you have times minimum wage times 12, if you're earning minimum wage, you are automatically exempted. You're not even having any, you're not even on that, you're not paying taxes. Then for those that are earning it on the exercise, it's possible. That means it's possible. For example, I want to try to be as practical as possible. So if you're earning, if you as an event planner, because your business is not separate from you, I must emphasize before I come back. Record keeping is something that I think I forgot to mention, because you deal with a lot of, for example, event planners. You deal with a lot of vendors, right? It's very important that you have record keeping of the monies that are coming in, so that you don't mix up. So that it's not like, I have this plenty money in my account. You must be able to be clear that there's a lot of outgoings. This money is not for me, right? And so I can really know this at the end of the day. This is the total annual income that came in. But if, as you said, total annual income, you're being taxed on, you have to take away your expenses and all of that. So you're being taxed on the profit, not on the total money that came in. And so, as I said, I always advise that even if you're running a business name, still register, still pay yourself a salary, so that, but because you're a business name, there's no separation between you and your business, right? So I said, so 800,000, you're exempted. So for example, I was trying to say something before. If you're earning 1.5 and your total annual something comes at 1.5, the first 800 is exempted. Is the next 700 that will be taxed. Do you understand? So if it's the same thing as 2.5, what you are earning, 800 to the first 800 out of that is exempted. Then you start taxing you based on the rest of the income. Note, as I said, that there's a progressive tax rate. The first, this is certain percentage. We're going to share that with you. It's not in the slide. I probably have added it to the slide, but we'll share that with you. So you see the rates up to, I think it's up to 23%, depending on the income. So you're going to see that, right? So that's for personal income tax. Then there are some reliefs that you get as individuals, as a taxable person, under business name or individual or as an employee. And one of it is um and one of it is okay. So I've seen that we have some questions online. I'm going to answer that. Let me just say one of it is what's it called? One of it is the house rent relief. Now it is capped at 500k. It is what capped at 500k. So it's not like they are going to be giving you relief in totality. So, for example, if your rent is 1 million, you are not going to get a relief of the whole 1 million. They are going to cap it. So you are going to get relief of 500K. So for example, so if at the end of the day your tax total income is if your total income is 1 million, and then there are other certain reliefs as well. Um Allowable deductions. There's the pension, there's the housing fund that you are allowed to deduct, then the house rent relief. Now, if you remove 500K from the total income, right, you've removed. So this is like giving you the exception of your expenses in that rate, but the government is not giving you all of your house rent. So you move 500,000 relief, even though your rent is 1 million, at least they've given you half of it, so you are deducting it. So at the end of the day, by the time you deduct, you will now be left with, let's say, for example, 500K. Now, at the end of the day, if what is left of half all those deductions, 500K, right, and it's not more than 800K, you'll be exempted to pay the personal income tax. You only need to file. So let me try to see if I can break it down. Um, there are reliefs that you get. Um, okay. Your annual income is 2 million. You've gotten the relief of your rent out of it, 500K. You've gotten the relief of um you've gotten the relief of what's it called? Of certain things. Maybe you've already paid your pension. Then for withholding tax as well, I mentioned that you're not exempt as a business name. Some of you have been issuing invoices and they've been giving you income tax. They've been charging you withholding tax. Withholding tax, I forgot to mention, withholding tax is not a tax that is like you're paying tax ahead. So it's a person that you are paying your tax ahead, so you can claim it at the end of the year. So when someone deducts 16,000 naira from you or 20,000 from you for withholding tax, you keep it the record. They can deduct that as a relief at the end of the day. So all these reliefs reduce the burden of the taxes that you pay at the end of the day, right? Let me just check out the questions. Okay, I think we've already stated this, but let me check the one on YouTube. Question one for event plan. Okay. Please, for someone that wants to register for event company, which is the best? FCC or any clarification? Okay, so for as I said earlier, I'm not going to give a direct, but when you speak to us directly, we can give legal advice. But what I can say is that for someone that wants to enter into event, if I were the one, I'm not speaking now as a lawyer. I'm trying to not give a legal advice on because it's supposed to be educational and not a legal advice platform. But as I said, because of the high level of risk involved in your business, I would suggest you a limited liability board. We can talk better on looking at the pros and cons when you come to us directly, and then we can give you proper legal advice so you can compare that this is what it is, this is what it is. Looking, having the side by side to hit, right? For example, requisitions to be remitted monthly, periodically, and yearly as the business owner to employ. What is the maximum minimum staff strength to remit and all of that? Um, obligation to remit is not only limited to you as a business name or limited, it's both. As long as you have staff, as long as you have three staff employees, as long as you have staff, three, but I will confirm that, but as it's last time that I know is three employees minimum, then you are expected to register for pay, which is pay as you earn, and then you start deducting taxes from your employees. But this is applicable to both business name and limited liabilities. It's not about the entity that you registered. You must, if you have reached certain minimum of employees, you must register them for pay as you earn, and then you start paying them. Then there are also a higher level of pension. They had higher level of pension when you start deducting. Then you also have health insurance, but that comes with certain when you get certain level. But pay as you earn is compulsory when you have reached minimum employees to deduct taxes from them. And so you as the employee that are deducting taxes from, you are under the category of the personal income tax. And so you are expected to also file that, okay, I'm earning 200K from my salary, and at the end of the day, that's 2.4. you're expected to go to your portal, depending on your state, and file your returns. You're not paying taxes anymore now, except you have a personal business you're running. You're not paying taxes anymore. You are just going to go there and file the returns that this is how much. Then, but if you're having other sorts of incomes, streams of incomes, then you're also supposed to remit that. They're also supposed to fill in the rent to get the relief. Other then, if you're deducting pension from you already, you're supposed to also go there. So if you accept you're running another business, then you are not paying additional taxes again. Let me see. Unified tax business who already has a TIN and the state are reducing it to register database. So I believe that you won't have to register afresh for those that already have TIN, they will have a way of harmonizing it. It's just those that don't have at all are the ones that will have to create a new one. But you that already have, it's just going to be harmonized because some of these things were already created with our BVN and our NIN, so you can't keep creating another one again. It's going to be harmonized, and you don't need to create another one. But those I don't have yet would um would create. So how do we know? Oh, I didn't get it. How do we know license mutually has new music is help daily? Okay, so when I said that we must obtain license music, is so at every time you're trying to do an event, ensure that you are asking the event hosts if they've already obtained license to play music at that point. So it's not like you're getting a license for one music, pub music, and all of that. You must confirm, yes, the GD has responsibility, the event host has responsibility to ask those questions. So new music coming out, the fact that you've already gotten a license, a one unified license to play music in that hall is not, you don't necessarily, and it's not necessarily, it's also applies to any new music. So except specifically there are, yeah, so that's it. So if whether new music or not, as long as that particular hall, as long as the DJ has gotten a license to play music, you cannot be getting license for me artist A, artist B, artist C. That'd be stressful. But the the body in charge of giving you music ensure that you get a unified license that gives you the right to be able to play music. So whether any music comes out, it falls under it as long as that particular hall has obtained license, then every other thing falls in place. Right. So trying to check out the question. So I want to try to move out to the what's it called to company income tax. So I think I've been able to answer the question when it comes to there's some of the questions that were asked during the question that were being filled where if I just started my business, am I taxable? Or when am I supposed to pay tax? So for companies for filing, you're expected to file at least 18 months after commencement. But for you as a business owner, as long as you are income, you're taxable. So it's not about whether I'm just running it. As long as you are earning income, you're taxable. Except you're in the category of companies that are exempted. So that brings us back to limited liability companies. So criminal liability companies are exempted for paying tax, which is called company income tax. If your earnings 100 million, right, and above, sorry, and below, you're exempted. You're not going to pay, but you are still expected to file returns. Now, company income tax, limited liability company still has obligation to file their company income tax returns, which is done most of the time on or before June. It's always 6 months after the annual general meeting, but most of the time people always have their end of the year by December. So you are still expected to file the returns 6 months after, even if you don't have anything that you're paying. Company income tax, company limited liability also have withholding tax, but they are exempted as well to the threshold of 100 million as well. Same thing applies to VAT. You're exempted. So VAT now, both business name and limited liability covers the exemptions. The tax reforms, Mr. Taiwo ensure that the VAT is protected for business name and limited liability. Withholding tax is the only one that you're not protected as business name. You are not exempted. You still have to file. So I want to see if I have any other question. And I also want to check the question that we asked. At what point is the business name owner liable to pay pay? Is it only when business name has up to three employees before the whole four can remit pay? Please clarify. So as I said, the last time that I am aware of is three employees minimum, and then you register them. Ensure that they fill the form. They give you their peer ID. So I'm going to use Lagos because I'm more familiar with Lagos tax processes. So how it works now is that when you have employees, you you take in their peer ID, ensure that they are fully registered on the e-tax portal, plus yourself as a business owner, you should pay yourself too. Then the four of you, you register yourself, and then when you're not filling it, there's a way you fill in the. They have a schedule, they have a template on the portal where you fill in your details, your email address, phone numbers, the salary, right, and the salary, the tax deducted. So there's a way the percentage, there's a way payee is also calculated that you'll be able to deduct the taxes based on certain people are not going to be paying taxes. So you won't deduct taxes from them. So as it is now, those that are under the minimum wage and those that are earning 800,000 as it stretch in a whole year won't also pay taxes. So you won't deduct from those funds. You deduct from those people that can pay, and there's a way you calculate it. And then you upload the Google sheet on the portal. It automatically generates the total amount to be paid, and then you file. So the question I had is it when the business has some three employees before all the four can remit? Yes, you don't when you have but I'll have to confirm that what is the minimum number now. But that is supposed to be three for you to now go ahead and start remitting. But I'll confirm that. I want to also try to get one of the other questions that we asked. I mean, for event planning companies, the question here that says that operate as an enterprise, what are the specific statutory obligations about aside from PT, VAT, CSN returns? I think, I think, I think the most, I think the sorry, I think okay, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to summarize this so that we can close. It's already 1 hour. I'm trying to search for the questions and to be sure that I've covered everything. So I'll say something about capital gains tax. There's been a lot of fears. People are selling in their shares that the percentage that I'm hearing is it looks high or blah, 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 none of that. But one of the things I'll just say here, we're going to give a detailed document. We've already created it, we'll just refine it and send to all of us, is the fact that before capital gain tax was we were usually taxed based on what you the total money that you sold. So for example, you sold your asset for 100 million, they're going to tax you on that 100 million before. But now the capital gains is saying that they're giving room for you removing expenses, removing room for documentation, removing room for everything, but you're only taxing you on the profit itself that you made from that sale. So it's not like that you're going to be taxed on the total income. So, for example, I'll give you another example. You sold the land, or you sold a property, sold a house, you sold your shares. All of the fact that you paid broker's fees, you paid all of those things. There are all those fees that you have paid. You're allowed to deduct it, and they're only going to tax you based on what you. They're only going to tax you based on. They're only going to tax you based on. So we're trying to check if there's any question on Facebook or LinkedIn. So they're only going to charge you based on the profit. And so we know that, okay, comfortably when I sell my house or sell anything or sell a land, the capital gains is after I've removed all of the expenses and that's what I'll pay the taxes on. Then also, Mr. Taiwo also giving some reliefs. So some of these reliefs, as I said, are not in the law. They are just reliefs to, they are just some reliefs to bring us to, I want to check if there are questions online for us to answer. Okay, we can't see any question. All right, so before we close, I'm trying to find out the question. Let me check the questions that were answered. Just a second. So I've cleared up the part of. Okay, so just a second. This is some of the questions that we asked. We already asked them answer the question. The tax law starting in June in 2026. We have a unified a company that's qualified as a small company is so the law itself has two categories. There's a 50 million and there's 100 million. 50 million is saying that for income, company income tax, and 100 million is saying VAT. But Mr. Taiwo has given everything as 100 million. So small companies defined as 100 million. And with the total assets not exceeding 250 million, right? So that's already, so you're exempted, as a small company in filing the company income tax. Um, then I'm trying to see another question that we asked. So there are penalties, for not filing. If you're exempted, you still need to file. So what else? Everyone's gonna get a tax ID number. So a company that has been operating more than 18 months must file returns no more than 6 months, as earlier mentioned. Individual, a return of income must be filed with the relevant tax authority in a year of assessment, which usually is always March. Then for what's it called? For VAT, so the VAT also must be filed 7.5, except you are exempted. You don't need to collect, you don't need to file. You don't need to, if you give yourself out to be registered, then that means you're giving yourself the obligation. But if you are exempted, you don't need to collect, you don't need to pay anything, because you're totally exempted from paying. I think there's all the questions have exemptions. We already said it, that those that earn a gross income of national minimum wage or 800,000. Then there's a question I've not addressed, and that's who is in charge of tourism. Yeah, so there's a law called National Institute of Hospitality and Tourism. It imposes statutory obligation primarily on personnel and institutions within the hospitality and travel and tourism industry. So we are definitely going to share the act with you so you can go through it. It contains the trainings, registration, the fees, penalty. Recently, the federal government ought I think they were trying to do some reading for those that were not compliant, and the federal government urged that movement that they should stop and not go ahead until certain provisions are reviewed. So I think that's basically all of that. That's basically all of that. So we're going to send in the document. So yeah, I found the band. So the first 800 is 0%. The next 2.2 million is 15%. The next 9 million is 18%. So I'm going to use, so as I said, first 800 is zero, right? So the next 2.2, because you already, so from, if you're earning 2.2, if you're earning 2.2, you're going to deduct 800,000 from you and not charge that. So 2.2 minus 800,000, the what is total is what you'll be taxed on, not on the total amount. Same thing, if you keep moving on, 9 million is 18%. So they always deduct the 800,000 at every point, except except you are at that 800,000, then there's 0%. So I think so if there's any other question, thank you all for joining. You can still send in more of your questions if you have, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in conclusion, as we enter into the new year, plan to be a better event professional. Do not do your things differently. Ensure that you have your documentation complete. So let me just give a summary of taxes to be paid by business owner and limited liability in summary. Business owner, you're going to be paying personal income tax, 800,000 annual income is exempted. You're going to pay withholding tax. You're going to be paying VAT, etc. Exempted. Um, if you're a limited liability company, you are exempted. If your earnings is 100 million and below, you're exempted from withholding tax as well in within a certain threshold. You're going to be filing VAT if you're exempted within a certain annual turnover too. So weighing all those options, so you to decide that, okay, do I still want to continue as a business name, or do I want to upgrade to limited? So that way it forms a decision that, okay, maybe if I become a limited liability, I'm exempted from certain taxes up to when I'm stable. But automatically, as a business name, I'm paying taxes anyway. So, and then proper accounting, separating the vendor's money, inventorying the professional fees away from the vendor's money, it helps you a lot to stay accountable so that it's not mixed up. Tax people, tax professionals assume that this money in your account, because event planners will have millions and all that in your account, but all of those ones have been out. They've been disbursed out. So you must clearly then contract. Please do not enter into the new year or do not enter into a new event without proper documentation. Even if you even have templates, ensure that I won't, as I said, I won't advise template, but if you have to use template, ensure that it covers every single thing that you envisage that might happen so that you are totally protected. Music DJs, event halls that play music, ensure you get a license from the MV. Let me try to get a license. Try to confirm the full name. And if those I want to use, the full name just skipped my mind right now. Oh my god, how did that happen? So when I remember the full name, I will let us know. It's the MCSN. Yeah. So they have a website. You must sure you get the license there as well. So I think I've covered everything. Thank you all so much for joining. We're looking forward to hearing from you all for your questions and all that. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.